Hello, I'm Polly Patullo, the publisher of Papillot Press, a small publishing company based in Dominica in the Eastern Caribbean and in London. Welcome to this edition of En Papillot. Black Man Listen is the life of JR Ralph Casimir, written by his granddaughter, Kathy Casimir MacLean. Casimir was born in Dominica in 1898, and his long life spanned most of the 20th century. He was an early Pan-Africanist, a supporter and organizer for Marcus Garvey, an agent for Garvey's Black Star Line, an editor, writer, and prolific letter writer. I wanted to publish this book because not only was Ralph Casimir an important and neglected until now figure in the history of Dominica, but also because his life and activities and activism spanned most of those important interwar years where the stirrings of nationalism and anti-colonial struggle emerged. Here is Kathy MacLean to read extracts from Black Man Listen. You will enjoy.
I'm Kathy Casimir MacLean. I'm going to read to you from my book Black Man Listen, which is a biography of JR Ralph Casimir, a Dominican poet and political activist. My earliest memories of my grandfather are of his visits to our family home at Kings Hill, on the outskirts of Roseau in the 1950s and 1960s. Perched midway up the hill, the house, which was destroyed by the fury of Hurricane David in 1979, was a sprawling bungalow with wide verandas at the front and back, surrounded by a garden of fruit trees. Grandpa would arrive in the late afternoon while it was still light and the long shadows were beginning to fall. He often sat on the dark green wooden bench with a drink clinking with ice cubes, while I, with my siblings and cousins, played hopscotch or skipping games on the glacis opposite a broad-leaved mango tree. There he would have long conversations with my maternal great-grandmother, Mary Lucy Olivace, sometimes known as Ma Percy, as she sat in her cane rocking chair. Their voices were a background to our play. When I was very young, Grandpa would put up with me bouncing on his knee, and we would sing a nursery rhyme about galloping horses, which would end with him pretending to drop between his legs. I thought it was highly entertaining. As I grew older, he would more than likely find me immersed in a book. He would ruffle my hair and say, "What are you reading, child? Hope it's teaching you something, or you should find a good light to read in. Careful you don't spoil your eyes." As was customary on his arrival, we would all stop whatever we were doing to troop over and kiss him dutifully and wait to be dismissed before resuming our activity. We always knew that Grandpa was about to arrive. We could hear his whistle as he approached. He made an art of whistling, and it was my first introduction to classical music, as he would whistle classical tunes. It was from him that I learned the names of Mozart and Chopin, and then associated them with the records that my father played in his study. Grandpa always left us by 8 o'clock. He would kiss us goodbye, don his hat, and stride off into the darkness, whistling his way down the hill towards the town. When I was 12 years old, my father was appointed to a job at the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa as a statistician. A few days before our departure for Addis Ababa in November 1963, just as the sun was lowering in the west, preparing for its dramatic drop into the sea, Grandpa made the journey up the hill. As always, his approach was heralded by his whistling. He was carrying a large brown paper parcel. We sat around while he was being refreshed, and he talked to us about our luck at moving to a country with great traditions. He spoke in admiring terms about Haile Selassie of Ethiopia. He was the Emperor, King of Kings, the Lion of Judah. His people had never been enslaved, and they had defeated Mussolini and his Italian occupation. How lucky we would be to live in Africa, the birthplace of all our ancestors. I got the feeling that Grandpa wished that he would accompany us on what he obviously viewed as a wonderful adventure. It was an important conversation, as before this I just knew that we were going to some place in Africa. Many of my contemporaries seemed to find this news a bit shocking, as we were all very ignorant of life on that continent.